Hello, everybody. It is Mr. Zeke coming to you from the watchmaking bench. We're here for installment number 2 of building a watch together. In installment number 1, I introduced all of the parts: the case, the crystal, the dial, the hands, and the movement. Haven't got around to a strap yet. We have much work to do before we get to that point. Today, I have tallied the results of the matte finish case versus the polished case, and it seems that the polished case has won overall, which I think is a good choice given the luscious blue of the dial. So right now I'm just applying my finger cots to protect all of the pieces. It's important with a mechanical watch, as well as with quartz watches, that you keep as little dust, or keep as much dust out of the watch as possible, because the amount of torque that goes through a watch's movement oftentimes cannot overpower the smallest piece of dust inside of a watch's movement if it's strategically placed. And so, as I said before, we were looking at a high gloss or a high polish case versus the matte finish case for the build that we're doing. And I asked you guys to vote in the comments as to which case you thought would go better with that blue dial. And so everyone casted their votes, and the polished won out. Now, it's important to point out that this is polished on the bezel, it's polished on the sides, but on the lugs it's got a brushed finish, which adds a little bit of depth and a little bit of a subtle nuance to the look of the watch. So what we have in front of us is a crystal press, and essentially it just presses, like it sounds, presses the crystal down in place. I've seen a lot of cheap presses on eBay. This is a much heavier, much more solid, more professional crystal press. And it uses replaceable dies that come in different sizes. And so essentially what I want to do is I want to find the right size die so that the case will sit just like so and hold it perfectly level as I press the crystal into place, because we can't have the crystal floating around, or the watch case floating around, the mid case floating around when we press the crystal. Otherwise we'll end up damaging the we could damage the crystal, we could damage the crystal gasket, and that's that white ring you see there, and that is what creates a water resistant seal when we place the crystal in the case. And so the particular crystal that we've chosen for this project, it came from Crystal Times. That's the CT right here, Crystal Times, and it is I believe a green AR anti-reflective coated sapphire crystal. And so let's get to work. So we have a slight dome to the crystal, very subtly nuanced. And so we're going to go ahead and before we do this, before we press it, I want to make sure to get a good clean wipe. I'm using Zeiss optical wipes. They're for professional cameras and eyeglasses. I like them because they don't leave a residue, but I'm going to give this crystal a nice good wipe down before I set it in place, because I don't want to have to continuously worry about it cleaning it once it's installed. And I'm paying more attention to the inside than I am the outside. But I don't do a lot of rubbing because I don't want to damage any of the anti-reflective coating is on the inside. It's on the inside layer, not on the outside layer. That way when this is sealed, and that's nice and clean. I see a little bit of dust down in the corner. But the inside has the AR coating. So I'm going to use my air blower, which is a staple of watchmaking. Just, it's never good to blow on watch parts with your mouth because you're actually exhaling liquids. And so now that I have that clean, I'm going to set this in place, and I want to just line it up by hand first, because when I apply pressure with the press, I don't want to wreck that gasket. I want it to, okay, so I've got it started. But sometimes they're a little bit of a booger to get started because that gasket is going to be good and tight. And so once I get this where I like it, this is my first time using the gasket that comes with the case. Normally I use, or in the past I've used a different gasket. And this gasket seems a little bit tighter, which is good because that's what we want. And so, set this in place. Okay. Now we're going to set the case in place, centered on that. And the top die I've selected to press it in place. Yep. This is all new to me, using a camera whilst doing these projects, because they usually I'm focused on the press alone, but now I have to make sure you guys can see it. It's very important to now to protect that crystal as we press it down. We're going to take just a thin plastic bag and we're going to set it right over the top like that. That way the die isn't actually touching the crystal. So here we go. And what I want to do is, once I make contact with the crystal, I just want to bring the lever down in a smooth motion. And that should be it. Let's have a look and see if we are happy. So, looks to me like we got a good seat. Should be slightly sitting out of the case. That's the thickness of this crystal. And so I don't see any damage to the gasket all the way around. And no damage to the outside. Take a microfiber cloth, which we use quite a bit, and give the outside a good wipe down in case there's anything on that plastic. And that is a seated crystal. And you can catch a little bit of the color when I hold it at an angle. Let's have a real quick look and see what that dial is going to look like inside that crystal. You always keep the parts sealed up, packaged up when you're not working with them. So let me grab the dial and we'll set it inside that case with the crystal in place and see how it comes out. So that is upside down. No, I was holding it upside down. The dial wasn't upside down. All right. So that right there is what we're working with. There's a little bit of dust on that dial. But the AR in the sunlight, the anti-reflective coating in the sunlight, should make for an interesting combination. And that dial has, that dust is getting to me. There we go. Now I'm happy. Now I'm much happier with the. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it looks like without the dust. All right. There we have it. All right. So now you can see a little bit of that the anti-reflective coating color playing with the blue dial. So I'm just waiting on one more piece to arrive. The second hand, I decided on a second hand, once that second hand gets here, it's going to go quick. So, cheers, everybody. It's Mr. Zeke. I appreciate you stopping by and checking out the continuation of making a watch together. Have a great Sunday afternoon. Bye-bye.